how are you? Many people have already felt a strange weakness out of nowhere, seen stars, had blurry vision, or even that feeling that something is wrong with their body and don't know what's happening. Today I'm going to talk to you about low blood pressure. What are the main symptoms and signs your body gives you that something is off, that your blood pressure might be lower than it should be? This doesn't necessarily mean that you are someone who has low blood pressure. Maybe your blood pressure is running low right now. In this video, I'm going to share what might be causing this sudden drop and what you can do to avoid these unpleasant symptoms. Stick around until the end, you won't want to miss this. Before we start, I want to ask you if you have the habit of measuring your blood pressure, if you only do it when you go to the doctor's office, or if you have a device at home and take these measurements yourself. I would love to see your comment. On average, what is your usual blood pressure reading? Write it for me down here in the comments. And remember to go ahead and like the video. That's your way of helping me here on the channel. And if you know someone who needs this information or would enjoy this content, share this video. Let's expand this chain of kindness. Low blood pressure is something that many people don't really understand how it works. Because blood pressure is nothing more than the force with which blood leaves the heart, circulates through the body, and returns to the heart. And this basically depends on two things. It depends on how much the heart pumps and how many blood vessels are able to contract or relax to make this cycle, this closed system, work properly. When blood pressure is adequate, blood reaches all the organs well, especially the brain, right? It has the necessary force to go up to the brain because of gravity, right? Which normally pulls everything downward. The problem starts when this pressure gets lower than it should because the brain is extremely sensitive to a lack of blood flow. So it also can't store energy. It needs a continuous supply of glucose and oxygen. So when the pressure drops, when the blood flow decreases, less blood and less oxygen reach there, and the brain starts to temporarily reduce some functions. And that's exactly when we start to experience some symptoms. The first and very classic sign is dizziness, or that feeling of instability, which ends up being more common. And this happens because the brain, as I mentioned to you, receives less blood, which usually affects one of the first things, the region responsible for balance. That's why the person feels dizzy, has difficulty standing up, and experiences that lightheaded sensation. The second symptom can be darkened vision or seeing those stars. This symptom is very characteristic because the retina also depends on a constant and adequate blood flow. When blood pressure drops, the perfusion, that is, the circulation decreases in that area of the eyes and vision can go dark for a few seconds. It's that moment when it feels like everything is about to go black, you know? Some people even say they actually see stars. This can also be a sign of low blood pressure. Another important sign is weakness and fatigue. With less circulation, as I mentioned, there's also less oxygen in the muscles, not just in the brain. And the result can be tiredness, weakness, and lack of energy, even if you haven't exercised or increased your activity that day. Another thing that happens to many people is excessive sleepiness. Many people don't associate this with low blood pressure, but it obviously makes perfect sense because the brain reduces its state of alertness when blood flow drops. So the person feels weak, sleepy, unmotivated because the brain can't stay as alert as it should. There's also another symptom which is quite specific, and that's nausea. This symptom comes from the nervous system. A drop in blood pressure activates autonomic responses in our body, the autonomic nervous system. And this can cause nausea, malaise, a general feeling of discomfort. In some people, it can even lead to vomiting. There is an even more serious sign, which is fainting, also known as syncope. This is already a more serious and advanced level when the brain recognizes that it has too little blood, right? Insufficient blood for what it would need for a few seconds. It's as if it temporarily shuts down, right? Obviously because the brain never actually shuts down, but it's as if it lowers some functions as much as possible to conserve itself. It's a protective mechanism. So what else does it do? Often it causes the person to fall or lie down to get into a horizontal position. See how amazing our body is, so that the blood flow returns to the brain, right? When we're lying down, when we're in a supine position, we can stabilize the circulation issue better because gravity isn't acting on us, like I mentioned to you. So it's easier, even with lower blood pressure, for the blood to reach the brain. So many times this is a maneuver the brain uses to try to get more blood to itself. Let's also talk a little about what can cause low blood pressure. Because, as I mentioned, maybe you're not someone who actually has low blood pressure, physiologically speaking. But maybe you've gone through some things that made your blood pressure drop more than normal. And it's important to avoid that, right? For your quality of life and even for safety. The first thing is dehydration. One of the most common causes, with less fluid in the body, there's less blood volume in the plasma, in the blood, and as a result, less pressure as well. This can happen because of heat, when we sweat excessively or don't drink enough water. That can cause a drop in blood pressure. The second thing, which is also very common, is standing up too quickly, which is related to orthostatic hypotension. This is very typical. People who stand up quickly all of a sudden often have blood rushing down to their legs rapidly because of gravity, and the body takes a few seconds to compensate, so there's a lack of blood in the brain. So during that time, because of this, you might feel a bit dizzy and sometimes everything goes black, or they see stars. So that's another cause, right? Standing up too quickly. One thing you can do is, in the early morning, sit up first, stabilize yourself, and then stand up. Or if you're on a couch, first put your feet on the floor, stand up slowly, support yourself on something, and then start walking safely. Another thing that can happen is lower blood pressure after meals, especially if you eat very heavy, very fatty foods, or eat in very large quantities. This can happen mainly if you are older, over 60 years old, because the body, the digestive system, starts to not compensate as well for the blood flow that ends up being directed to the digestive system for digestion. So when we eat a very large, very heavy meal, more blood goes to the entire digestive system and blood pressure can drop, right? Peripheral blood pressure, so to speak, can drop, and that can cause sleepiness, tiredness, and sluggishness after eating. So if this happens to you, the ideal is for you to have lighter meals in smaller portions spread throughout the day. Of course, there are also some medications that can cause our blood pressure to drop. Actual blood pressure medications, diuretics, because they can decrease the amount of fluid in our blood, and some antidepressants as well. You should never stop taking medication on your own, but if you started taking these medications and have been experiencing these symptoms of low blood pressure, it's important that you talk to your doctor, the one who prescribed the medication, so they can adjust the dose, the timing, or even the active ingredient to help you with this. Of course, another thing that can cause low blood pressure, and this is something more extreme, is blood loss or certain illnesses, right? Hemorrhages, accidents, trauma, or more serious things like heart diseases can lead to lower blood pressure. So obviously, if you've had an accident or lost a lot of blood, that could be a consequence. How can we tell if this low blood pressure is something manageable in daily life or something more dangerous? When you have low blood pressure that comes with more severe symptoms like frequent fainting, falls, mental confusion, chest pain, or shortness of breath, you need to see a doctor. It is becoming a serious condition, and it's important to be monitored. You may have very low blood pressure, and it could put your health at risk. So ideally, if you are experiencing more severe symptoms, you should see a doctor as soon as possible. In practice, what we can try to do to minimize low blood pressure is to stay well hydrated. Avoid going long periods without eating, but also not eat large amounts all at once. As I mentioned before, stand up slowly, more carefully, and safely. Adjust any medication that is causing you harm, always under your doctor's guidance. And be careful during periods of excessive heat in the summer, or if you're going to the beach or in any situation where you'll be exposed to the sun. Know that your blood pressure may drop at those times. So, tell me down below if you suffer from low blood pressure and if you have any of these signs or symptoms. Which one bothers you the most? I would love to see your comment. Remember to like the video because that really helps me, and share it with those who will enjoy it and those who need it. Let's work together to expand this chain of kindness. That's what I want here with the channel. See you next time. Bye.